The Tkinter package or Tk interface is the standard Python interface to the Tk graphical user interface toolkit. Both Tk and Tkinter are available on most Unix platforms, including macOS as well as on Windows systems. Tkinter is the standard GUI library for Python. Python, when combined with Tkinter, provides a fast and easy way to create GUI applications. Tkinter provides a powerful object-oriented interface to the Tk GUI toolkit as well. It provides various controls such as buttons, labels, and text boxes used in a GUI application. These controls are commonly called widgets. There are currently 15 types of widgets in Tkinter. All Tkinter widgets have access to specific geometry management methods which have the purpose of organizing widgets throughout the parent widget area. If Tkinter kindles the little fire of interest in your mind, then stay tuned to learn more about the same.
If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I want to request you to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss out any new updates or video releases from Great Learning. If you enjoy this video, show us some love and like this video. Knowledge increases by sharing, so make sure you share this video with your friends and colleagues. Make sure to comment on the video, any queries or suggestions, and I will also respond to your comments.
Hello learners, welcome to the course of Python Tkinter. My name is Gaurav and I once again welcome you to all to Great Learning. Now, moving to the course agenda, first we will be knowing what is GUI. So as we know that GUI stands for Graphical User Interface. So it allows users to interact with the electronic devices using graphical icons. Now, coming to the GUI libraries in Python, we are having different types of libraries starting from Kiwi, PyQt5, and obviously we are having Tkinter too. So now, coming to the Tkinter, as I already told you that Tkinter is a Python's GUI library. Moving ahead, we are having Tkinter programming. So if you want to create a simple Tkinter app, so first you have to import the module Tkinter, and then after importing, you have to create the main window. Once the main window is created, then you can add only widgets. And after that, we have to event the trigger. So now, next we are having widgets. So talking about the widgets in general, these are an element of GUI. In Tkinter, widgets are the objects that represent buttons, frames, etc. After knowing widgets, we will see the geometry configuration of widgets. That is nothing, we are having three geometrical classes, that is pack, grade, and place. We will discuss while implementing Python Tkinter. Next, we are having different types of widgets. So we are having different types of widgets such as label, then we are having Checkbutton, message box, canvas, and many more. And obviously, we will see the implementation of widgets also. So this is the basic outcome for this Python Tkinter. So let's start with graphical user interface. So as I already told you about graphical user interface, it allows the user to communicate with electronic devices through graphical representation. When I'm talking about graphical representations, that means buttons and icons. So the example of GUI is Microsoft Windows as well as Mac OS, and we are having several other examples also. So basically what happens here you can do the communications by interconnecting with the icons. So this is the basic idea about graphical user interface. Now, let's see different types of graphical user interface libraries that are present in Python. So we are having several libraries that are used in Python for the GUI. We are having Tkinter, we are having Kiwi, PyQt5, WXPython, and PyGUI. So now let's get some idea about Tkinter. So Python Tkinter is nothing but a standard GUI library. So basically when Python is used in conjunction with Tkinter, it creates graphical user interface that is quick and simple. Also, it gives the Tk GUI toolkit a sophisticated object-oriented interface. So this is the basic idea of Tkinter. You just need to know that it's a Python GUI library, and then we will see how to create a Tkinter programming. So now, if you want to create a simple GUI application with Python Tkinter, so there are some certain steps that has to be followed. First, you have to import the module of Tkinter, right? So you can just simply write from Tkinter import asterisk, and then you can import the Tkinter module. Second step that we have to follow, we have to create a main window. Then how to create a main window? We will basically create an object of Python Tkinter. Next, after creating the main window, now we can add multiple widgets in a main window. And after adding widgets, now we can enter into the main event loop to perform action. So now there are two primary approaches that user has to follow, right? So first, as I already told you, that you have to import the Tkinter module, and the module name is from Tkinter import asterisk. So after importing the Tkinter module, now what we have to do, we have to create a main window. So how to create a main window? I will just simply write here main window, that is nothing but a variable. So for creating an object, I will just write here tk and parenthesis. Make sure that your T is capital. And then in order to run the application, I will just write here main window dot main loop. So basically main loop is nothing but an infinite loop, right? That will run your application. And then it also waits for an event and process it as soon as the window is open. So this is the basic idea about how to create a basic Python application with GUI. Now let's see into the practical example. So what I will do now, I will just write here from Tkinter import asterisk. So this is the basically Tkinter module that I will import here, and then after that I will create a main window. So let me write here variable window, and I will create here the object. So for creating the object, make sure that T is capital, and now I will just simply write window dot main loop. So we know that main loop is infinite loop that will run the application. So if I'm executing it, you can see that we have created a simple GUI application, right? So this is the basic idea about Python Tkinter. So now you have seen that how to create a GUI app. Now let me here change the title. So if you are executing it now, so on execution, you can see that I am getting here TK, right? And if I want to give the title instead of TK Great Learning, so I will just simply write here window dot title. And I will write here welcome to Great Learning. So now let me execute this, and on execution you can see that on top we are getting welcome to Great Learning as a title. So after this, let me change the window size. So I'll just write here window dot min size, and I will just write here, let's suppose width as 100 and height is equal to 200. So if I'm executing it now, you can see that this is the minimum size of this window. And if I'm clicking on this button maximize, then you can see that this is the maximum size. So let me change the maximum size also. So for that, I'll just write here window. So I will just write here window dot max size. And once again, let me give here width is equal to, let's suppose 300, and let's take the height as 800. So on execution, if you see, this is the minimum size of the GUI app and this is the maximum size, right? So this is the basic idea about Python Tkinter. So after creating first GUI app, now it's time to know about widgets. So what are widgets? So talking about widgets in general, this is basically an element of GUI, and in Tkinter, widgets are considered as objects which represent buttons, frames, etc. So basically Tkinter offers many controls, and these controls are nothing but known as widgets, which we will be using in GUI applications, right? So as I already told you that it represents buttons, labels and text boxes. So we are having different types of widgets that are available in Tkinter, that is label, button, entry, check button, canvas, frame and many more. So this is the basic idea about widgets. So now let's understand the geometric configuration of widgets. So we have already got the idea about widget, but if you want to organize the widgets, so we need a geometry manager classes. So primarily we are having three types of geometry manager classes, that is pack, grid and place. So after adding widget, I have to organize the widget. So I will be using these three geometric manager classes. So the first one is pack. So when you are using pack functions, so it means that you are placing a widget on a top, right? Coming to the grid, it is used to organize the widget in the table-like structure. So when I'm talking about table-like structure, that means row and column. Next, we are having place. So it is used to organize the widget at specific positions. So I will just write here X and Y. So here, if you are writing, let's suppose X is equal to 20 and Y is equal to 40. So that means from left to right, you are placing a particular widget. And now coming to the Y, that means from top to bottom, you are placing any widget. So this is the basic idea about the geometric configuration of widgets. So now it's time to discuss about the different types of widgets that are present in Python Tkinter. So first widget that we are having is label. So when you are talking about label, basically it is used to represent display box in which image or text is added. So what's the syntax of label? So I will just write here simple label, And in parentheses, I will write here master, comma, options is equal to value. Coming to the master is nothing but the main window that you have created. And here we can provide several options as an arguments. So we can write in options BG, command, font, image, width, and height. When I'm talking about BG, that means it's the background, right? And also we are having FG also. FG means foreground color. So when you are writing FG is equal to blue, so your text will be of blue color, right? So this is the basic idea about the label widget. Now let's see it into the practical example. So what I will do here right now, once again, I will just import the Tkinter module. So I will just write here from Tkinter import asterisk. And then after that, I have to create my main window. So let me write here the variable name window. And I will create the object as Tk. Now I will just simply add widget here. So I have to add here label widget, right? And we know that after creating the main window only, we can add widget here. So let me write here Elvin is equal to label. So this is my label widget, right? So in label here, I have to write here master. What's my master? Master is nothing but the main window. So I will just write here window. And then in options, I can give several options. So let me write here options. Let's suppose I will just write here text and I will write here great learning. So this is the label, right? And also if I want to organize the widget, then I have to use the geometrical configuration, right? So let me use here first L1.pack. And if you want to run the main application, then I have to write here window dot main loop. So if I'm executing it now, so on execution, you can see that great learning has been printed on the top of this window, right? In middle. So this is about the pack geometry class. Now after pack, if I'm just using here, let's suppose grid. So we know that grid contains rows and columns, right? So what I will do here, I will just write here row is equal to 0 and column is equal to, let's suppose 1. Now if I am executing it, so on execution, you can see that great learning has been printed here. So as of now, we have just started doing the coding. So as soon as you will write more code, then we can change the row and column also. And then we are having one more geometry class, that is place, right? So I'll just write here place. So basically in place, if we want to organize the widget at any particular place so that we can give here X and Y. And let's suppose if I'm writing here X is equal to 5 and Y is equal to 10. So basically this is the position. When I'm writing X is equal to 5, that means from left to right, you are placing your widget. Similarly, when I'm writing here Y equal to 10, that means from top to bottom, you are placing your widget. Let me execute this. So on execution, you can see that great learning has been printed. If you want to place at any other position, so you can just write here X is equal to 50 and Y is equal to, let's suppose 100. And if you are executing it, you can see that we are getting the output like this. So this is the basic idea about the label widget. So now let's suppose we have already created a label widget of text great learning, right? Let me execute this. So if you see, this is a great learning here. Now if I want to add here the background color along with the foreground color, then how to add it? So I will just simply go on here options and I will just write here, let's suppose background color I want in blue. So I will just write here blue, and for foreground color, I will just write here simply red. Let me put this blue under double quotes. So now if I'm executing it, you can see that on execution, this great learning. So foreground color will be in red color and the background color is of blue color. Also, if you want to increase its width, so you will just write width is equal to, let's suppose 40. And now if I'm executing it, so on execution, you can see that its width has been increased. So this is the basic idea. So in label widget, you can add more options in the form of background, foreground, image, font, many more. Yeah. So after knowing label, now if I want to add any image on my GUI app, so what can I do? So let me execute once again this. So if you see here, let's suppose if I want to add any image here, so what shall I do? So first what we'll be doing, let me just remove this. Let me write here the variable name as Ivan, and I will just use here photo image. So you can also see that is showing the photo image option, right? So inside this photo image, what I will do here, I'll just write here file, and if you see here, so let me take a file from the desktop. So if you see here, this is the file basically, and it's an image file, right? So I'll just go on properties, and if you see, this is the location. So I'll just copy this, and the file name is Python, right? So the image file is having the name Python. So what I will do here, I will just simply first put double quotes, and inside that I have just copied it and pasted the location, and the file name is Python, right? So I'll just write here Python dot, and it's in the PNG file. So I'll just write here Python.png. Now instead of this backslash, we have to just replace it with a forward slash. So I will just write here like this. So now after this, what I will do, I will create a label. So I'll just write here L1 is equal to label, and inside this label I have to first put master, right? So my master will be here the main window. So I'll just write here window, and then I will write here option. So in option I will just write here image, and what's the image here? So image is equal to Ivan. So now if I am doing execution, so on execution you can see that I am getting nothing. Why? Because I have to use here geometrical classes, right? So for that I will just write here, let's suppose L1.pack. So now you can see that in output we are getting the Tkinter image here. So this is the basic idea about the label widget. So the next widget that we're going to discuss is button. So basically button is used to display button in an application, and it's also having a very simple syntax. We have to just write button, make sure that B is in capital, and then instead of master our main window will be there, and in options we can pass several arguments such as BG, command, font, image, width and height. So here we can also use command. So when you are writing command, so basically when we are creating any function, we will just assign that function name into the command. We will understand better while doing the coding part. So now let's see the practical implementation, how to create a button. So for creating button, I will just simply write here, let's suppose B1 is the variable name. I will write here button, and I will write here window. So window is my main window, right? And after that, let me write here text. So if I'm writing here text is equal to enter, and again I have to write here b1 dot, I can use here pack, I can use here place, I can also use here grid, but let me write here pack. Now if I'm executing it, you can see that this is my enter button. So let me give here again the color. So in background, let's suppose if I am taking it as a green color, and for foreground I will just take as yellow, and now in execution you can see that this enter button is having foreground color as yellow and background as green. So now we have seen that how to create a button widget. Now let's see how to create an entry. So what is entry? So in entry, let's suppose if I have created a widget that is label widget and its name is username, right? And I want to give the entry through the user, right? So that's why I will create an entry where I can write the value in the form of string as well as integer values too. So let's create entry here. So I'll just write here even variable, and for entry I'll just write here entry, and in entry I'll just write here window, and then let me give here the width also. So let's suppose the width of this entry is 20. So I'll just write here even dot back, and now I'm executing it. So you can see that on execution I am getting this entry, right? So here I can write here string value as well as integer also. So how we can use this entry? So let's suppose if you are making any website, right? And for that particular website, if you want to access it, you need username and password. Then we can use entry there, and we have to create button also for that. So let's suppose that if you want to change the font style here, so what I will do here, I just simply write here font is equal to, and let me write here Calibri, and let's suppose that font size I want 20. So I'll just write here 20, and now if I'm executing it, you can see that the size has been increased. So now if I'm writing here Gaurav, it's in Calibri, right? Now, what can I do here? If I'm writing here BD is equal to 5. So what is BD here? So BD is nothing but it is used to represent the size of the border. So when I'm writing here BD is equal to 5, then you can see that we are getting the entry button like this, right? So this is the basic idea about the entry. So let's make a simple GUI app. So what we gonna do? First, we gonna create a label, and after that entry, and then we will create a button. So in label, I will be taking the name as employee name, and entry, I will just give any string values. And when I'm clicking on submit button, so what will happen? Whatever the string value that I have given in entry will be displayed. So basically, I will be using two labels here. The first one will be having the name as employee name, and another label will be having the name as nothing. So whatever the string value that I am giving to entry, and if I am clicking on submit, so instead of nothing, that value will be shown to us. So this is the basic idea. So let me create a simple GUI now. I'll just once again write here from Tkinter import asterisk, and now I will just create a main window. Let me give you the title also. So once again, I will just write here window.title, and I will just write here welcome to great learning. And then, and let me just write here window minimum size. So I'll just write here width as, let's suppose 200, and then height I will just write here 400. So for the maximum size, what I will do here I will give the width as 400. Let's take the double of the minimum size, and then height also I will write 800. And let me write here window.main loop, because if you want to run the application, then you have to write it, right? So you can see that this is my output, and this is the minimum size, and the maximum size is this one. And here on the title, I'm getting welcome to great learning. So these are the things that we already know, right? So let me create a label here. So for label, I will just write here L1 is equal to label, and L1 is my variable, right? So inside this label, let me write here master. So master will be here my main window. And now in options, let me write here text. So in text, let me give here, let's suppose employee name. And then let me also give here foreground as well as background color too. So foreground color, let's take here blue, and background color as, let's suppose I will take as red. And since this is a label, basically it's a widget, so I have to organize this widget. So for that, I will just write here L1 dot, I can use also here back, but let me use this time place. So in place, I can place my widget at any specific position. So let me take here x is equal to 0, and then y is equal to 10. And on execution, you can see that this is my label, which name is employee name, right? Now let me create an entry button here. So for entry button, I will just simply write here even is equal to entry, where even is my variable. And once again, I will just write here window. And let me give here the font. So I'll just write here font. So in font, I will just change the font style. So let me change the font style to Corbel, and let me give the size as 18. And let's use BD too. So why we are using BD? So as I already told you that BD is used to represent the size of the borders, right, of an entry. So if I'm writing here BD is equal to 5, so let me write here even.entry. So now what I will do now, I have to place this entry, right? So once again I will write here even dot, let's use here place, and let me use here x is equal to 40 this time, and y is equal to 10. And if I am executing it just now, you can see that I am getting this output, right? So it's not coming perfectly, so let me just adjust the size here. So instead of 40, if let's suppose if I'm writing here 80, and now if I'm executing, you can see that I am getting here employee name as label, and this is the entry, right, where I can write any name. Okay, so let's create a button also. So for button, I will just simply write here b1 is equal to button, and let me give here the master as window, and in option I will give here once again the text is equal to, let's suppose, enter. Let me give here the colors also for this button. So for foreground I will use yellow, and for background let me use green here. So now we have to organize this button widget also. So for that I will just write here b1.place, and let me write here x is equal to, let's take here 100, and y is equal to 40. I'm just taking random values here. Now if I'm executing it, you can see that I'm getting like this one, right? So let me just rearrange it. If I'm writing here x is equal to 120, okay, now it's coming in between, and let's take the y value as 60. Now it's coming perfect, right? Now if I'm writing here, let's suppose Gaurav, and if I'm clicking on this enter, you can see that nothing has been happening, right? So what I will do now, I'll just create another label, and this label will be here, and I will just write here nothing. Now after that, whatever the string values I'm writing here in this entry, and if I am clicking on this enter, then this instead of nothing, the value must be the same that I've given. So for that, what I will do, let me create another label. So I'll just write here L2 is equal to label, and I will just write here window, and after this I will just write here text is equal to nothing, and let me give here foreground as, let's suppose, black, and background, let's take background as brown, and let me place this widget. So I think x will be 120 here I will be taking, and y let's take here 90, or let's take 100. And now if I'm executing it, you can see that label is not defined because L has to be capital here. Now it's good to go. So on execution, you can see that I'm having the another label as nothing. Now I have to do something, that if I'm writing here Gaurav and clicking on this enter button, then it should work, right? And instead of nothing, I want here the value as Gaurav. So for that, what I will do here, let me create a variable. So now after this, what I will do here, I will just create a string var. So let me create a variable v is equal to string var. So when I'm writing here string var, so basically that means we are dealing with the string values, right? So after creating here string var, so now what I will do here, inside this entry in options, I will just write here text variable, and it will be equal to v, because we are dealing with the string values, right? Now I want that my button should work. So for that, I will create a function. So whatever the function you are creating, let's suppose the function name is @tech, then I can use the binding functions, and I will write here in button command is equal to @tech. Now, how to use this at text? So I will create a function basically. So I will just write here def at text. And now after this, I will just simply write, let's suppose my variable is v, right? So if I want to get any value, I will just write here v.get. So let me create another variable, x is equal to v.get, right? And now after this, I'll just simply write here. So now what I will do here, I just want to print this value. So I have to write here print x. Now here, as I told you that I have created two labels. The first label name was employee name and another label it was written nothing. So I told you that whatever the value that I am putting into the entry, it should be changed in the label whose name is nothing, right? So I will just write here L2 and I will use here config function. And inside this config, I will just write here text is equal to x. Now, what will be your x value here? So I have written here x is equal to v.get, right? And v is equal to string var. So basically we are dealing with the string values. So now what I will do here, I will just execute this and let me write here, let's suppose Gaurav. And if I am clicking on this enter button, you can see that I am getting Gaurav here, right? And also if you see the output, I am also getting Gaurav in the output. Why? Because I have written here print x. So now let's make some few more changes. Here the name has been changed from nothing to Gaurav, and let's change the color also. So how you can change the color? So in this config function itself, I will just write here background as, let's suppose, yellow, and then foreground as, let's suppose, blue. Now if I'm executing it, so let me stop and rerun this. And this time once again, if I'm writing here Gaurav and if I'm clicking on this enter, you can see that the name has been changed along with the background color as yellow and foreground as blue. So this is the basic idea about the label widget, entry and the button, right? So this is a very simple GUI application. So the next widget that we are having is Checkbutton. So Checkbutton is used to show a selection of choices as checkboxes. Let's take an example. Let's take an example of male and female. We can use them as a check button. Now, let's see the syntax. So the syntax is simple. You have to just write the check button and inside the parenthesis, your master will be the main window. And then there are several options that can be passed through as an argument. We can have title, background, as well as active background. So this is the basic idea about check button. Now let's see the practical implementation. So now you can see that this is the basic Tkinter programming. Now what I will do here, I will just create a variable here. Let's take CV and I will just write here check button. And inside this, I will just write here window. And then I will just write here text. So as I was explaining about, we can take the example of male and female. So just let me write here male. And then I'll just write here CV dot, let's use here pack. And now if I'm executing it, on execution, you can see that I am getting male as check button, right? So this is my check button. So the next widget that we are having is frame. So basically frame serves as a container and it is used to organize the widgets. Now, what is the syntax of frame? It's again simple. You have to just write frame and then master and then options. So here as an argument, we can pass several options such as BG, BD, cursor, width and height, right? Now let's see the practical implementation of this frame. So now once again I came back to PyCharm. I just simply write here f1 variable. Let me create here frame. And inside this I didn't pass any master neither options. So I'll just write here f1 dot pack. f2 is equal to frame. And I will just write here f2 dot pack. Now if you are executing this, then nothing will be executed, right? So what I will do now, I will just create here, let's take an L1, that is label I will create here. And inside this, I will pass F1 as a master. And then let me take here text. So I'll just write here text is equal to great learning. And if I'm writing here L1 dot pack now, so let me execute this. So on execution, you can see that I am getting great learning. Now I will just create another label. Let's take L2 is equal to label. So I will just write once again here F2, and then let me write here text is equal to bottom. And I will just simply write here L2 dot back. So now on execution, you can see that I'm getting bottom. So here you can see that basically I'm having two frame, right? Great learning and bottom, but I want the bottom to be printed on the bottom side. So for that, what I will do here, you can see that I have written here F2 dot back, right? So I'll just write here side is equal to, and I will just write here bottom, and bottom will be in capital. So now if I am doing the execution, so on execution, you can see that great learning is on the top of the window, whereas bottom is on the bottom side of the window, right? So the next widget that we are having is Listbox. So Listbox is used to give a user with a list of options. So basically in a simple word, you can say that Listbox contains a list of options. And as we know that list can contain different types of data values. So Listbox will contain a different list of options. So next we are having syntax. So what's the syntax of Listbox? Once again, we will write just Listbox, and inside that masters and the options that we can pass as an argument. So what are the options that we can pass through an argument? It's like BG is background. BD is used to represent the size of the border. Then we can also use font as an option, image, width, as well as height. So now let's see the practical implementation of Listbox. So in the Listbox practical example, we will see how to remove the element from the Listbox and also how to insert any element, or you can say items, in the Listbox. So now what I will do here, I will just write here LB is equal to, let me create a Listbox. So this is my Listbox, and I will just write here window, and let me give the width. So if I'm writing here width is equal to 20, and let me just write here LB dot back. So here L should be capital. So this is my list box, and if I'm executing it, you can see that I got an empty list box. Now it's time to insert the options in the list box. So for that, I will just create a list. So let me give here the list as L1, and let's insert several values. So how to add several values in a list box? Let me write the name here. So let me write here Tony. I will write here Edwin. Let's take some few more names. Let me write here Kirtika, and let's take one more name as Ipsa. So these are the four values, right? And I want to insert in my list box. So for that, what I will be using, we can use loop, right? For loop. So I'll just write here for I in my list name is Elvin, right? So what's the name of my list box? So list box is having a variable name as LB. So I will just write here LB dot, and then I will just write here insert, and let me write here end, and I will just write here I. Now if I'm executing it, so on execution, you can see that I am getting Tony, Edwin, Kirtika, Ipsa. So what can I do now? If I want to remove, let's suppose Ipsa from here. So let me create a button. We have to create the button, right? So for button, I will just write here B1 is equal to button, and I will just write here window, and text is equal to, let's suppose if I want to remove Ipsa, so I'll just write here remove, and let me give the color also. So I'll just write here, let's take the background color as red. Now for button also I have to write here b1 dot back. Now if I'm executing it, so you can see that this is the remove button. But if I'm just clicking on this Ipsa and then clicking on this remove button, so it's not removing. So we know that it will not remove until and unless we are not using a command, right? So what is command? Command is nothing but a binding function. So in button, I will just write here command, and let's take that I will write here attack. So here you can see that I have assigned attack in command. So what does it mean? It means that I've created a function whose name is attack, right? So what I will do here, okay, let me just create a function here def attack, And inside this function, what I will do here, so I'll just simply write here LB. So what is my LB? LB is nothing but a list box variable. And if I want to remove the element, then I will use here delete function. And inside this delete, I will just write here anchor. So what do you mean by anchor? So that means if you want to select an item, single item, and if you want to remove one by one, then we can use anchor here. So if I am executing it now, so if I want to remove, let's suppose Kirtika, and if I am clicking on this remove button, then you can see that it has been removed from the list box. Similarly for IPSA, we can do it, right? So this is the basic idea about the list box. So now after understanding label widget, button widget, and many other widgets, it's time to discuss about some other widgets. So we are having different types of other widgets available in Python Tkinter, starting from menu button, menu, message, radio button, scale, scroll bar, text, top level, spin box, and pan window. We'll see some of the widgets in the practical exam. So let's start. So now let's discuss about the radio button widget first. So for creating radio button, let me write here RB1 and R has to be capital. So this is my radio button, and as a master I will just write here window, and after this I will just write here text is equal to yes, and let me write here RB1 dot back. So on execution, you can see that this is the radio button that has been created. Yes, right? Let me create one more radio button. So I will just write here RB2 is equal to radio button. And once again, as a master, I will write here window and text is equal to no. And obviously we have to place the widget, right? We have to organize the widget. So for that, once again, I have to write here RB2 dot back. So now you can see that I'm having two radio buttons, that is yes or no, but you can see that these both have been selected, right? So for that, what I will do here, I will just write here value is equal to, let's suppose for s I'm giving the value 1 and value is equal to 0. Now if I'm executing it, you can see that only one has been selecting at a time. So now here if you see that these are the radio buttons, right? But let me create a button so that whenever I'm clicking on yes, I want the value to be printed on my output. So for that I will create a button. So let me create a button. So I just write here b1 is equal to button, and then I will just write here window, and in button I will just give here text is equal to enter, and once again just let me write here b1 dot back. Now if I'm executing it, then you can see that I got the button. But if I'm clicking on this enter button, you can see that nothing has been printed in my output. So for that, what can I do here? Let me create here int var. So I'll just write here, let's suppose I'll just write here v is equal to int var. So that means basically we're gonna deal with the integer values, and after this I will just write here variable, and we know that our variable is equal to v here. So I'll just simply write here v variable is equal to v, and inside the button when I'm writing command, so that means we are using a binding function. So command, once again I will give the name here @tech, and I will create the function name as @tech, right? We know that whatever the function we are creating, so let's suppose we are creating a @tech function, so in the command we will assign the @tech here. So let me just write here def @tech, and inside this let me just write here simple print, and v is my variable, so I just write here v dot get. So we know that in yes we have assigned the value as 1, and for no the value is 0. So now if I'm executing it, so on execution if I'm clicking on yes and clicking on this enter, so now this button will work. So on execution you can see that I'm getting the yes value as 1, right? That we have already assigned the yes value as 1. Similarly, if I'm clicking on no and then clicking on this enter button, will give you the value 0. So this is the basic idea about radio button. So the next widget that we gonna discuss about is the message box. So now talking about the message box, it is used to display the message box on the Python applications, right? So what I can do here, let's create a message box. So For creating a message box, you have to import message box. So I'll just write here from Tkinter import. I'll just write here message box. Now my message box has been imported. Now what I will do here, I will just simply first let me create an entry. So I'll just write here even is equal to entry, and in this entry I will just write here window, and let me also give here the font. So in font I will just change the font style. So font style is take as Calibri, and then font size as 18, right? And let me give the width also. So I will just write here width is equal to 20. And after this, let me just organize this widget. So I will be using event.pack. And now if I'm executing, you can see that this is my entry box, right? Now what I will do here, let me create a button also. So I will just write here v1 is equal to button. And inside this button, I will just write here window simple. And then in this button, I will just write here text is equal to, let's take enter, right? And I will be just writing here v1.pack. Okay. So now what I want to display here in this message box. So let's suppose if I'm not writing anything and if I'm pressing on enter, so then it shows some message box, or you can say some warning message, right? In the form of message box. And let's suppose that if I'm writing any string values, then it shows that yeah, it's successful and it should print that particular value. So for that, what I will do here, I will just create here a int var. So I'll just write here simple v is equal to int var. Or instead of int var, I'll just create a string var, right? Let me write here string value. So I'll just write here string var. And so here what I have to write, I'll just write here text variable is equal to v, right? Now we know that we have to write here command, which is a binding function basically. So command here, once again I will create a function. So I have to write the function name here and assign it to the command. So what I will do now here, I'll just create a function here def at tech, and let me give the condition here. So let's suppose if I'm writing here if v dot get, so we know that v dot get will give me the value is equal to if I'm writing here empty. So I will just write here message box. Now I will be using the message box here dot Python provides several functions here for this. So I'll just write here show warning. So I will be using here so warning, and here you can see that we are having the title and message. So in title I will just write here caution, and after that I will write it's empty. It's simple, right? When you are not writing anything in the entry, and if you are clicking on the enter button or the submit button, then it should show something, right? Please enter something. It's empty. So I've just written here the instruction, it's empty. Next, I will give here the else condition, else message box dot. Now I can use here one more function that has been provided by Python. I just write here show info, and then title I will just give here successful, and then let's suppose display, I want to display here v.get. So I'll just write here v.get. So whatever the value is there, I'll get here, right? So now if I'm executing it now, so on executing, this is my entry, right? And if I'm not writing anything entry and clicking on this enter, you can see that I'm getting caution in my title and it's showing it's empty, right? So this is the message box. Similarly, if I'm writing, let's suppose Gaurav here, now you can see that I have given here Gaurav in Calibri 18, right? So this is a Calibri font style, and if I'm clicking on this enter, it's showing successful Gaurav, right? So this is the basic idea about the message box. So now let's take a quick recap for this course. So we have started this course by understanding what is graphical user interface. Then we have seen that different types of graphical user interface libraries that are present in Python. So one of the library is Python Tkinter. Then we have understand about the Python Tkinter and we know the basic structure of Python Tkinter, that first you have to import the module. After importing the module, you have to create the main window. Then only you can add the widget, and at last you can apply the event on the trigger. After that, we have seen the widgets, right? So widgets are basically an element of GUI, right? And it represent buttons, frames, etc. And we have seen the practical implementation of various widgets such as check button, such as label, radio button, message box, and many more. So this is a summary of the course. Thank you.
If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I want to request you to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss out any new updates or video releases from Great Learning. If you enjoy this video, show us some love and like this video. Knowledge increases by sharing, so make sure you share this video with your friends and colleagues. Make sure to comment on the video, any queries or suggestions, and I will also respond to your comments.